We're now live. I had to do a couple multi-streaming here across Facebook as well, and I'm on Instagram here on my phone. So we're talking about the 5 ways to create visibility for your ideas and become that strategic go-to decision maker that you want to be within your organization. And I just shared that first mistake with you today, which is all about you're allowing constant interruptions. So you also might be in the background. The reason why you're allowing those introductions or interruptions is maybe because you think, well, my idea is really not that good enough or clear enough to begin with. Or you are holding on to the hope that if you speak like really wisely but not often, that your input is going to be carrying more weight. Except here's the thing. Research has shown that those that speak the most are perceived as the ones that are the most confident, but are also the ones that are most often listened to. Now, I'm not saying that you go out and you talk over everyone and completely, hold over the meeting, right? So that you don't allow anyone else to talk. Because if that's the case, then there's other problems because you're going to become seen as overbearing. You're also going to miss on really great collaboration opportunities, not to mention that doesn't really play into your wheelhouse in terms of your soft skills. And I just did a live training on how important your soft skills are on Tuesday. So if you want the link to that, just drop me a DM, soft skills, and I'll get you the link to that. Or just check out my content for the live that I did on Tuesday. All right. So I mean, here are some other specific things that are happening as well. I do it too, right? Right now I'm taking a pause to think, well, what's my next thought that I want to share with you? And then other people see that as, hey, that's a moment I can jump in. And women especially do this much more often. We are the type that will take a moment to take a breath or just a pause and then to move on. But that pause is often the space that someone else needs to jump in. So you've allowed that silence and you haven't recognized that silence is actually making a lot of room for others to overshadow you. And being silent as well in the meeting is, again, the same thing. You're allowing other people to overshadow you. So either taking too much of a pause, and it's learning how to do that, of course, preparing for your meeting. But you've also avoided addressing any interruptions in the past. So now it's going to seem like, well, if I now say like, well, I did not like that you interrupted me there. It's like you're making like a big deal out of a really small issue. And here's what happens when you do these things. You're going to be finding yourself being spoken over a lot. You're going to be find out that you likely are going to be watching your less qualified colleagues be promoted over you. Ugh, who wants that now? And you're going to find that I've lost my notes here for a little bit. And you're going to find that you're also missed out on those crucial decision-making meetings because let's be honest, you want to be the sought-out go-to decision maker and the strategic leader within your organization. If you want to be a sought-out strategic leader, you better be included in those crucial decision-making meetings because if you're not, likely those less qualified, you're going to be watching those less qualified colleagues be promoted over again and again. So I'm going to share right now, I'm going to share 5 really simple ways from within the strategic influence pillar so that you can stop allowing these interruptions to happen. So the first one, if you're interrupted, then I just want you to pause and then continue where you left off. So if someone interrupts you, right? Joe Blow from accounting is like, yeah, but I think this would be blah, 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 blah. You're like, when you at the same, you can either cut in there in between, or once that your Joe from accounting is finished, you can say, all right, as I was stating, and continue from where you were going off. Here's how this helps. One, it signals that interruption was actually a lack of respect to you, and that shouldn't, and also the signal to the rest of the people, as well as the person who interrupts you, Joe from accounting, that this was not acceptable, and that you're going to continue on with the point and the idea that you are sharing first, and then you can address that additional point later on. Now, a second way to really, stop all those interruptions, or to manage those interruptions better, is also to position yourself really confidently in the room. So don't take a back seat. Don't find yourself stuck in a corner. Give yourself the advantage of taking a central place and a very visible place within the room. So whether it's a large meeting room or a small meeting room, you want to make sure that you're visible, almost like that front and center, so people can't miss you. And use gestures to hold attention. Now, I love talking with my hands. So if you're watching me in a video, you'll see my hands quite a bit. And I do it too much so that it really distracts from attention. So use it wisely to pull their attention in and keep it with you rather than with somebody else, which could also just simply mean is, if when that Joe starts to interrupt you, you could even just use the hand gesture of, you put your hand up, which of course everyone's like, what? And then you pull that attention back to yourself and continue on where you left off with your idea, right? So we've mixed 1 and 2 together here. Number 3, you could setting clear boundaries. So start your points with, well, I'd like to finish before I get feedback. And so this really points out to those that are listening. It's like, okay, I need to listen to this, and then I have the opportunity for feedback. This can really help, because you find that, I found that when I was teaching, I found that when I was leading my teams, is that if you just start rattling off an idea, if for the others present, they don't know that there is going to be an opportunity to give feedback, they will likely pull back and go, oh, well, it's not for me. Or they are going to jump in at any moment in time because they really want to make sure that they get their idea across, that they want to get noticed, create visibility. And have you ever noticed that when the more senior leadership that is present, the more often that you're likely going to get interrupted, because everyone is vying for the attention of those leaders and wants to, make their mark, so to speak. The fourth one, I'll keep track here. So the fourth one is, I want you to reiterate the importance. Here's why this helps. So if you can start off like, this point is crucial because, or this element is important to note, or any kind of variation thereof, right? This is crucial. This is important. That signifies also for those listening that, oh, I really need to pay attention at this moment in time, right? It's an extra little red flag flying up, like, okay, pay attention, pay attention. And the fifth way is to seek allyship. So have your colleagues also redirect focus back to you. So if you're going into a meeting and it's going to be a bit of a gong show, it could really be helpful to find one of your colleagues and ask them to help you keep the focus on you instead of having someone interrupt. And what can that look like? That could be simply that this person interjects when Joe from accounting interrupts you and says, hey, Kim hasn't finished making her point. So let's allow Kim first to finish her idea, and then we can proceed to the next one. Yes, of course, you could do it yourself, but at times when you do it with an ally, this is not necessarily a gentler way, but it is a way that deflects from you, as well as being able to show leadership for the other person as well. So it's a bit of a win-win from both sides. Now, this is the first one. So I don't know how much we're in. So let's shorten this up today. So we've gone really in details on why allowing interruptions is really causing you to have a lack of visibility and a lack of buy-in for your ideas. But we need to go deeper than that. So the second part is about getting the feedback that you need in order to improve your idea, but also to, lay the groundwork that you have ideas, that you can take credit for those ideas, and that you can build upon them. So if you're finding that your contributions are vanishing into a void and you're not getting any kind of feedback, either positive or negative, then you're likely not asking for direct feedback. You're hoping that someone's going to notice, and you might be worried that you're going to be seen as either too demanding or needy of validation if you're going to look for feedback on your ideas or on just on yourself as well. So if that's the case, here's what I want you to consider is that feedback is really an integral part of building that visibility and that buy-in for you. So what can happen if you're not having that, if you're not having any of that feedback come up for you, you're going to find yourself really having, again, a lack of career progression because you don't know what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong, what could be improved. You might also just find yourself incredibly stressed out because, I'm doing all of this. I've got these amazing ideas, and yet somehow no one's listening. So, what do you do with that? And again, these are all different elements that are within my Leadership Edge program, or the Leadership Edge formula, I should say. So, here's what I want you to do when you're going to look for feedback. So, the first way is to speak through or not allow constant interruption. So, really claim your space, command the respect, and claim your space in the meeting. The second is go look for direct feedback. This does not mean just in the meeting itself, but it could be outside of that meeting as well. So, how do you do it? So you could just really ask directly in the sense, I'd appreciate your thoughts on this. All right. It gives very clear direction. I would also suggest, and you might already do this, scheduling regular check-ins with your superiors. Hey, Maureen, thanks for joining. And that is just if you're with your leadership and even your greater leadership team to also network a little bit more. Do your own assessment, right? Share your own assessment of your idea. Okay, now these are the points of this idea that I think are great. Here's where I think there are some points that could be improved on. And ask for agreement or ask for corrections or ask for people to build on that idea. You want to encourage that environment that values feedback. So especially as a leader with your own team, you want to do the same thing. So while you are going to ask for feedback, encourage your team members to develop this skill as well, to ask for feedback and to provide feedback, and so that they can continue to grow in their career as well. And at times you can go look at your colleagues and say, hey, that meeting, how do you think it went? Did I get the point across really clearly, or could there have been things I could have tweaked, right? Just asking for some feedback so that you know what you can improve on, and also what went really, really well. So here's the thing I want you to remember for this one. I want you to grow with intention and clarity, and you can only do that when you have feedback that is really focused on an area that you want to improve. Number 3, the third way that you can increase visibility in terms of your ideas and creating that buy-in to be that sought out strategic leader. What do you want to do? You want to make sure that you go to the forefront, that you are taking that leadership role. So what's happening? You're likely right now is you're allowing yourself to be pushed into a role similar to being a note taker during important meetings, which is sidelining that strategic potential. So what can you do? Well, I want you to speak up more often, right? You want to express that a very direct and clear interest in wanting to contribute to strategy and how in your strategic ideas that you have. I want you to also showcase your past strategic successes. So don't just and before you, because I can already hear you in my mind going, oh yeah, but I don't want to be arrogant, or I don't want to come across as having an ego. So I don't want to share my strategic successes. Listen, everyone forgets about them unless you're the one touting them yourselves. But it also showcases that you can do the strategic work. Initiate specific and different projects. So take the lead before you're assigned a role. So if you see something, and now this is, I find this is a fairly common trait among the high achieving women that I work with, is that you have lots of initiative. So find a really good project that you can take the initiative on that also delivers both strategic value to your company, but also strategic value to yourself in terms of your career as well as your network. And continue learning, right? Find different workshops or seminars or courses, or even, yeah, I'm going to throw my little coaching in here, coaching, where you can continue to grow yourself rather than trying to, figure it out all on your own or figure it out from the sidelines. It doesn't work that way. Fourth, I want you to start really becoming engaged and really empower yourself to follow up with people. Use your voice, because visibility going to be in the ability to follow up. Visibility is in not just asking for that feedback once, but continuously asking for it again. So for example, I have seen lots of emails, and I get them even from my team, that says, "Hey, you know what? Could you check this?" Okay, I'll get to it when I've got some time. So if you are being really silent, or you've asked the question once and it hasn't really delivered anything for you, then don't consider the fact that you may not have communicated that really clearly. So go back and ask. I'm looking forward to your feedback on, and then be very specific as to what point you're looking for feedback on. That both respects your time and that other person's time, as well as directs and focuses the attention to where you specifically want it to go and what you specifically want to get out of it. Direct the conversations yourself by scheduling face-to-face discussions. So don't just leave it up to an email and hope that it'll come back, or sometimes we throw out that question in the middle of a meeting and go, well, hopefully somebody comes and answers the question. You want to schedule certain face-to-face discussions, one-on-ones with this. If you've done your stakeholder mapping, I always look back at my project days of those strategic decision makers, and you want to be one, then you make sure that you're in the room with them. You have those one-on-one conversations with them. Be transparent. Your insights, for example, you could say, your insights are crucial to my next steps. So what this does is a couple of things. One, it really shares your ability and your willingness to seek out some feedback, seek out more assistance. And it also allows you the opportunity to gain valuable feedback, which can then improve on your idea and continue to create visibility, but also buy-in, right? Don't underestimate the power of having someone give you feedback on one of your ideas, that it can create their own personal buy-in. I'm like, oh yeah, but I've contributed to that one. So they can start promoting them as well. And diversify your communication. Don't just allow your communication to be either downwards to just to your team, or only up via your next level leader. You want to diversify that across the board. Who are other major players, both formally in the hierarchy and informally in the hierarchy, that you can have that can be involved in this? Now, lastly, it may be, well, it's not the most important, because I was just evaluating all the four that we've talked about, right? So here's the things that you're going to be doing. You're going to be commanding the room, right? The first one, so it's not letting yourself getting interrupted. You're going to command the room. The second one, you are going to really go and look for specific feedback, right? You're going to cultivate your growth by inviting feedback and seek it out so that you can make your ideas heard. The third one is you're going to stay in your strategist role, be that strategy leader, rather than getting, role assigned almost to the implementer or the one taking the notes. And the fourth shift is using your voice, because you have a voice. You want to make sure you're creating the visibility through specific ways of following up and making sure that you're not getting the silent treatment, by directing conversations and really seeking out connection. The last one is you're letting others divert others divert your credit. So that's the mistake. So what could you do? Right? You want to make sure you're taking credit when credit's due and that your brilliance, all those brilliant ideas that are delivering amazing ROI for your organization isn't bearing somebody else's name, because I can bet you if it bears somebody else's name, it also means that that person is going to likely walk away with the next plum assignment, the next great project that increases their network and increases their visibility within the organization, but likely also the promotion. So I want you to start documenting all the things that you've achieved, as well as the ideas that you have been presenting, so that it makes it easier for you to be able to claim them as your own. Now, this is not about being boastful, because I can almost hear you saying, it's like, yeah, but I don't want to be boasting about my own things or, tooting my own horn too much. Toot away, because as a society as a whole has conditioned women to really be especially humble, because we shouldn't really boast about our results. We need to be consider how other people feel and be a team player. And I bet you've also been saying to yourself, well, as long as the best idea is executed, it really doesn't matter who came up with it. Except it does, because at the end of the day, what it is going to do is it's all about what's your position, how you're developing your career, and let's talk about your bottom line financially. If you're missing out on a promotion because somebody else took credit for your idea, can you talk me through how that isn't beneficial for you? All right. So how do you do it? So because it's great if you need to take credit, but what do you do? So, one, you want to document everything. So look at email trails or meeting notes and ensure, especially if there's meeting notes, if someone, if there are things in there of like ideas, make sure they're accredited, not even just for yourself, but also if you see it for somebody else, be a champion for them as well and say, hey, that was a really great idea. Let's make sure that that person gets credit for their idea. If you're using collaborative platforms, for example, where you have tools, maybe you've got like a Google Doc that everyone works out of, right? You can find ways that we can make your edits and your contribution visible as well as those of others. And start talking about your ideas to anybody and everyone who's going to want to listen, right? Share them in team meetings, share them over while you're grabbing a coffee from the coffee machine. Um, and what you can also start doing is acknowledge that you've shared it before. So, for example, as I mentioned in our previous discussion about blah, 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 blah. So, this way it starts linking the idea also in the people's mind, because the more times you repeat it, the more likely it's going to be attached to you than to somebody else. And I also want you to find some champions. Find allies who will credit you publicly with your ideas and your amazing results and achievements. All right. So we've really taken a little bit longer than I expected. I also jumped on late because I thought I was at 2:15, which is my mistake. So thank you for sticking with me and joining anyways. So here we've got 5 ways to create visibility and buy-in. I've just shared with you. The first one is to command respect, command the room. Don't let interruptions silence you. Number 2 is to cultivate growth by inviting feedback. Seek it out so that you can make your ideas heard. Number 3, you want to stay in that strategist role. You want to stay in that being that strategic leader. So don't allow yourself to get distracted or relegated to the note keeping or just simply the implementer role. The third way is that, or so that was the third way. The fourth way, use your voice, because visibility is going to be in the follow up. And number 5, I want you to take credit when the credit is due you. And of course, it can also, like I shared briefly, it can work 2 ways. If someone else deserves the credit, be that leader that shares that credit with them. Be someone else's champion as well when their ideas are being shared. So that concludes today 5 ways to create visibility for your ideas so that you can become that sought out strategic leader that you desire to be. do you want to go more deep into this? I'm going to be sharing this week, or no, I should say next week, because the week's already passed. So I'm going to be sharing next week. I've got a fabulous new webinar or I don't know what I'm calling it, but a workshop, which is all going to be about how you can, as a woman leader and an undervalued woman leader, can increase the visibility within your organization. I'm going to give you one of the number one process that has worked for me, as well as over 60 plus of my clients increase their visibility within 7 days of the organization. And it is a totally actionable strategy. So if you want an actual strategy that you can do, I would say, well, some exercises take you about 30 minutes, but that most of those actions you could do every day with less than 30 minutes, then that is a workshop that you want to come to, because I'm also going to answer all of your questions. We're going to have a hot seat. So if you really want to dive deep into how to increase the visibility, increase buy-in, how to become that sought out strategic leader, this is the workshop for you. All right. I'm going to leave you there for the weekend. I wish you a great weekend. And as always, drop me a comment, drop me an emoji below if this resonated with you. And if you've got any questions, slide into my inbox. That is in totally safe space, where I answer every week. I answer lots and lots of questions from women leaders just like you. All right. Have a fantastic